You have hopefully all seen on our websites and with the invitation the principles that have been agreed between pharma and EFPIA, so representing the research-based pharmaceutical industry at the global level. This is, of course, to be seen in a much wider context of discussion about data, big data, data everywhere. We had recently, together with IBM and Wellcome Trust, a workshop here in Brussels, opened up by Commissioner Nelly Cruz about the use of big data to advance science. So this is not new to any of you, it's not new to us in the industry. However, what we've done so far is that we have focused on sharing data with one another, with other companies, with regulators, with academics and with SMEs. We have done this very much in the framework of the Innovative Medicines Initiative, which is our €2 billion public-private partnership with the European Commission, which will be extended, hopefully, with the approval of Council and European Parliament, into the Horizon 2020, which is code word for the next Research and Innovation Framework Programme of the European Union. Horizon 2020 will have a 50% bigger allocation for IMI2, where we will continue on the same track as before, but with greater flexibilities and better alignment vis-à-vis global health needs. These projects, which is about open innovation, are already showing results. There are just some examples here, but we now see, after a few years in the workings, we now see the results coming out, the fruits of sharing, pooling data with one another, advanced science in a big time that I think no one really could have expected. Now, so we're doing a lot of open innovation already within these frameworks. We also have a demonstrated history of transparency. I'll be the first to admit that sometimes we arrive late to the party. We may make changes a little bit too late to please everyone. But I think on balance we get it right. And I hope we'll get it right. I'm sure we'll get it right also in this debate. But we have, since about 10 years, published the fact that we start a trial. We publish summary results on clinicaltrials.gov, which is a government-run website in the US. Companies have websites with the results. We are actually launching, this is more of a coincidence, it happens at the same time, but the same month, in July, we launched 2 new big commitments on disclosure of relationships with healthcare professionals, which is on this slide. From 2015, we will collect data on all of our financial relationships with healthcare professionals and researchers and put it on the web, so you can see exactly what business relationships we have with people around the world. And the other commitment, which comes out at the same time, is a commitment to share clinical data beyond what we've done already, beyond what we've done with regulators and with other researchers. And these are based on the different needs. We've spent the last few months really dissecting this and figuring out what are the needs. There are different needs. I think the debate would benefit from greater clarity on the different needs here. There are some people that simply want to see more documents. They want to see why the EMA approved something. They want to see the study report behind the publication. Something was reported as an abstract, as having these results, and then the final paper says it has these results. How could that come about? So there's legitimate questions to that nature. But there are also, and this is maybe the more difficult thing to tackle, is that there are researchers that want raw data, as we call it. They want data to work on it, for meta-analysis, for pooling across product categories, maybe, similar to what we're doing in IMI. And we acknowledge that. We acknowledge that we can't put everything in IMI. We need to satisfy these legitimate research needs as well. So these are the background or starting points for our commitments, which is a commitment that we'll implement from January 1st next year already. So we're kind of busy in the companies now setting these systems up. And I'm not going to go review them in detail, absolutely not. But I'll just highlight up front that we had to strike a balance here between, on the one hand, satisfy these legitimate needs from researchers. And at the same time, we need to protect the privacy of patients that have allowed us to use data from them to advance science. We also need to protect our commercial interests. We have products that are not subject to patent protection. We rely on the trade secrets, both for protection in Europe and around the world. Also, we don't want our competitors to learn too quickly about how you go about things. And we believe that a framework which is run by the industry itself, it's much more likely to take care of these balancing needs. I must say I fully agree with the initial assessment done by the European Medicines Agency about the concerns. And there is a publication written by Professor Eichler, we hear later, and fellow regulators 2 years ago in PLOS Medicine, which outlined the pros and cons of data disclosure. And whereas I fully agree with the assessment of the pros and cons, the conclusion by the regulators is that therefore we as regulators need to disclose all this data. And if I maybe paraphrase it, put things in the cloud. Whereas the industry position is that we don't think that's the best way to do it. We think we should do it ourselves. We can show that we are going to give data to researchers and we're going to give documents to people that want documents. So the principles, the commitments are, and I just highlight the first two, is to dramatically enhance the availability of data to researchers. We will have, however, safeguards, so there will be review boards to make sure that, with independent experts present, to make sure that it's not bad science, it's not junk science. We will have people that would love to do this. We'll have tabloids that would like to have every Monday when there's a news draft, they would like to have something to run. So by having standards here, we hope to prevent public health problems down the line. We also need to make sure that we protect the patients. It's these days, with all the big data out there, triangulating, I mean, you take everything on Google, and I don't want to bring in the National Security Agency in this, but you take every information you have, and you, on top of that, you put research information from clinical research. Well, you can find the patients. So we need to think about how we basically hinder people from identifying the patient. And we think we can do that by having signed agreements with these requesters. Also, we can require that those that receive data will not give it to a competitor. It remains to be seen whether the EMA can apply the same types of standards. Second, very important, is that we are going to also enhance the posting of the reports. We have clinical study reports, which are volumes and volumes of data and line listings. We've said that as a minimum, the synopsis, which is probably about 5 to 10 times more than what we post today in terms of information and data sets. Those, as a minimum, will be posted immediately after approval. And they'll be posted on the public websites. And I guess we will have an enhanced site in Europe following the clinical trials regulation as well. And then just very briefly, for sake of completeness, a commitment in line with what has been suggested in the European Parliament as well, is that we actually ought to give patients information right away once the study is completed. We ought to loop back to the participants about whether the drug worked or not, and what about the safety profile. So this is something we have to develop, lay language type summaries that will be distributed very quickly after study completion. We will, of course, monitor that this is going to be executed by our companies. In Europe, we are going to put this in our code, which means that it's a requirement for membership, just as we've added the other requirement on disclosure of financial relationships that I mentioned. These two things are new, and they will be rolled out prospectively. And again, a confirmation that industry is going to publish all clinical trial results. At least we need to submit all phase 3 trials to journals. If they don't want to publish it because it's not interesting enough, negative results may not be the thing that they want to have, at least we need to write it up as a manuscript and submit it. It will always be available on the web as synopsises, and for researchers that are willing to see everything, they can get everything under commitment number 1. Now, this is not the end of it. There are a lot of practical details now to be worked out that we're very grateful for the organizers and grateful for all the people with views on this to come here, because we need now to shape this both as individual companies and as EFPIA, keeping an eye on this and seeing where is it that EFPIA needs to do something. Is there grounds here for industry-wide standards for what's a legitimate researcher? We very much look forward to input from groups like the Institute of Medicine, from the Biomed Alliance here in Europe, and civil society at large. So I and my industry colleagues are here with open ears. I may not stay entirely quiet in the debate, but we are here to listen to our stakeholders about how we make this work. Thank you very much.